So good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today we sit down with Gaelan Baillie. Gaelan Baillie is a very interesting character. I had a phenomenal time chatting with him, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and you will see through that. I spent most of my time laughing while trying to elucidate information from him on his journey. And he does. He gives us a thorough understanding of his journey from when he was in his 20s, working as a truck driver, up until the point where he started and succeeded at creating a successful business in Niagara Falls, which within itself is no small feat at all. But not just being an entrepreneur. Actually, Galen was in politics. He ran for the 6th District Legislature position on a Democratic ticket. He talks about his experience in that. And currently working on his documentary that divulges information from politicians and local leaders on what happened to Niagara Falls. How did we get to this point, and where do we go moving forward? He has a passion to cultivate the city and ameliorate it in a way that is advantageous to the citizens. His hustle, his drive, his understanding, his knowledge is all inspiring. And I hope you guys get to witness that throughout this interview. With that being said, hope you guys enjoy. See you at the end.
Yeah, it's tough, man, honestly. It's soul draining. It just drains you when you have to go be a complete phony.
Yeah, for sure.
And too, when you run, the campaigns and that, the fundraisers and these events you go to, nobody talks about problems or solving things. They talk about their opponents, or they talk about what is going on, like the drama of politics, not of actually like, hey, we got issues with this, we should be working on this, or what are your thoughts on this, or what you. Yeah. They don't even want to talk about that, really.
So, Galen.
Yeah. Is this live now?
Yeah, we're live now. All right. But appreciate you for coming. Yeah. It's nice meeting you. It's our first time actually meeting.
Yeah, nice meeting you as well.
But yeah, I've heard a lot about you. So I think...
Oh, man, hopefully good, huh?
Yeah, really good things. And so I deemed it imperative that I sit down and have a conversation with you. Kind of pick your brain. You've been here your whole life, right? Are you born here?
I went to Niagara Wheatfield. I grew up in on the border of town Niagara, town of Lewiston, like 10 houses from it. Okay. I went to school at NU when I graduated for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or something like that. And then I transferred. I went to school in Boston. I lived in Boston for a little bit. And I came back. I basically had a great time in Boston is what happened. I had a great time in the East Coast.
Are you a Patriots fan or?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a Bills fan, man. I'm a Bills season ticket holder. I went to Boston as a Bills fan, and I left like a diehard Bills fan to deal with Patriot fans.
Got it.
Then I came back home, got myself in a little bit of student loan debt problems.
Yeah, typically.
Yeah, and then I got a job. Actually went to a truck driving school when I was like 23. I got a CDL and I drove over the road tractor trailer for a year, which was honestly not my type of job,
But you made decent money doing it, right?
You do make decent money. I drove like Northeast regional. So the company I worked for had a big contract with Poland Springs. So I was up in Maine a lot, and then I would come down to like food distribution centers or like Costco's or along the East Coast, and you would drop off and then you'd get a load. Usually scrap paper, and bring it up to like paper mills in Maine, and then pick up Poland Springs and then come back down. So I was home on the weekends, but I was gone living in my truck for a week. Yeah. I hated it. I had a CDL license, so I was looking at where I could get, maybe drive locally. And then I saw an ad for tour guides, and you had to have a CDL. You didn't have to have a Class A CDL, but you had to have like a B, which is a little bit underneath. It's like the same license you need to drive like a school bus. Yeah. So I was like, I could drive it. These tour buses, no problem. And in high school, I worked for the state parks. They had these, they got those big green trolleys that run around the park there. I actually gave the speech on the trolley. Okay. Yeah, so I announced all the stops and told some history, made up some stories, told jokes, said whatever I wanted on there. And then I did that, and I did that in high school. So when I saw the thing, I was like, I already know a bunch of history. I like history. I was like, I could do this. I could do tours. So I did that. And then from that, I worked for two companies down there, and I didn't really know much about downtown Niagara Falls tourism. until I did that. And I saw how many people came to the falls. I was like, wow, there's a ton of people that come, 5-month window, but there's a ton.
Right.
And I was seeing how much money the guys I was working for. I was like, man, I think I should start my own tour, And then I was thinking about getting maybe like like kind of a shorter limousine bus, not a full stretch one, but like a smaller one, or maybe getting a real small bus, or a van. But the insurance was too high. I was broke. I had no money. I couldn't really do that. And then when I went back to Boston to visit my buddies that still live there, I saw these guys riding around on these bicycle rickshaws, these pedicabs all around Boston. When I lived there, nobody was doing this. Mm-hmm. And I saw it, and I was like, oh man, they're all guys about my age. I was like, that's what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get one of those pedicabs, and I'm gonna hustle around downtown Niagara Falls and do tours on that.
So what's a pedicab?
Pedicab is you know what like a rickshaw is, a bicycle rickshaw. Like it's a bike, you pedal, and then on the back has like a seat that could fit 2 to 3 people.
Oh, okay.
You see them in like a lot of like sporting events. Like some guy does it at the Bills games. They're in major cities. It was kind of I would say 10 years ago, maybe longer, 15 years ago, it was a very trendy new business idea. A lot of cities, somebody was manufacturing them in Colorado. They were making the best ones, and they were selling them, and people were buying them and hustling these little deals. These either doing quick rides like shuttling people out of a sporting event or a concert. I tried doing it. That's what I thought was going to happen down here, was shuttling people from the casino down to the park. Because they just redid Old Falls Street. It was a nice brick road. Look, the infrastructure was there, but there was zero foot traffic. There was nobody.
Wait, when was this?
This was like in 2011 when I started. There was no one around. I would drive around downtown and see. This was during the height of the tour season, Yeah, and I did tours, but I was a lot of times on the tour buses in the park. It was busy. There was nobody down. I'd be riding around, even documenting. I'm like, look at this. There is no one down here. And so then I had to do something. I was like, well, what am I going to do now? So I kind of dug myself deep in here to get this going. So then I went with my tour knowledge, and I knew some guys that also through the tourism industry. They worked at the Giacomo Hotel, and they were bellhop and front desk guys, and I convinced them I'd pay them a commission. All they had to do was just sell my tour. So they would bring people's bags upstairs, and on that elevator ride up, they would talk me up, and I'd pay them a commission, and then I would do like a private tour where I'd take them to the Maid of the Mist and Cave of the Winds, and I did that. I did that for about 3 years. And the first 2 years were brutal, physical brutal. Like I lost.
Were you married at this time as well?
No, I was dating a girl, and it fell apart. It's how when you first start a business, your relationship's going to go down.
100%.
It's going to go to hell. Unless she's on board.
For sure. Chances of that.
Because my wife now was on board when I started my next business, and she was part of it. She helped start it essentially.
Okay.
So after 3 years, I had to do something different. It was honestly, it's tough to pedal a bike that weighs 180 pounds. Then you put people in it. It could pull 1,000 pounds. There are times I was pulling probably close to 1,000 pounds of weight. Oh, yeah, it was brutal, man. The first year I lost 30 pounds in 2 months. Yeah, man, it was insane. People thought I was sick. They didn't know what I was even doing. They're like, "Has you got cancer?" Like they thought I had a serious illness. I'm like, no, I'm crazy. I decided to start a business in Niagara Falls. I'm worse than sick. So then, after I did that, I had I built up a lot of credibility. I'd say I didn't build up a lot of money, but a lot of street credibility. Like social capital. A lot of people knew me. They're like, "There's that bike guy," and they're like. So everyone knew why. I'd be like, I'm the guy that rides a pedicab. Like, oh, I know who you are, yeah. So I would get meetings with a lot of people, and I was also hustling at the time bike tours, but I didn't own any bikes, so I would bring my own bike. And there was a hostel down there. There's a hostel there now, but it was called Red Lounge Hostel. And this guy that immigrated from Argentina, he was running. We became friends, and I said, how about we use your bikes for the tour? You get a little piece of it, and I'll do the tour with bikes. So we get a little arrangement with that. So I was doing some bike tours. Then he ended up, somebody that owned the building sold it, so the hostel was done, and he was out of that. So I was still trying to hustle this idea, and there was Old Falls Street, like the property management company was renting bikes. And I went up to them, and I was like, hey guys, I see you're renting bikes. I'm doing this bike tour. How about we work out a deal? And they were just like, we don't even want to rent these things. I was like, really? They're like, do you want to do it? I was like, well, what do you want? What do you want for that? Like, what do I have to buy these from you? And they were like, it was in that moment where you're like, you're in a negotiation. Let's say the first person to get that first person to throw the number. I was like, what do you want? They're like, I don't know, how about you just pay us a commission? I was like, all right, what? And they're like, how about just give us 10%? I was like, sounds like a deal. Yeah. Sounds great. I was like, I can go anywhere on the street, like anywhere you want on the street. I was like, perfect. I picked like the closest corner to the park. I didn't even have a hut or anything. I had like, I had nothing. I was like, what am I going to build as a stand? So I was like rummaging in their storage area off Fall Street. They let me go in there, and I found this random old aluminum tiki hut. I was like, what are you guys doing with this? Like, we're actually about to throw that out. I'm like, perfect. Did I have this? I like, me and my buddy dragged it out of there. We dragged it down the street 2 blocks. It was heavy. And then I built like a little sign on top. And I just put out, I had 10 bikes. And I just started renting bikes. I had a chalkboard sign. I would change the prices daily. Wow. I didn't know what to even charge. You know, do we charge? They were charging all day and half day. And I was like, I don't know. We should charge by the hour and then go and have an all day rate, you know? So we started doing that. And then people would just start coming up asking me for stuff, you know? Because down there too, when you're on a street corner, people are walking around, they don't know where things are. And I'm a personal person, so I would be down there just saying like, hey, how's it going, guys? How you doing today? And people would start asking me for like, oh, do you have wheelchairs? And at first I was like, no, we don't rent wheelchairs. And I was like, I'm not going to rent wheelchairs. And then my mom randomly like bought a wheelchair, as I was telling us, from a garage sale. I'll tell you, my first fleet was a ragtag fleet. It really was.
Did she need a wheelchair?
No, she was like, she heard me that I was maybe going to rent wheelchairs. She found one and bought it for like $10. So then I was like, I had a wheelchair. I was like, well, we have one wheelchair. And I just started throwing prices out there. Like, what would somebody pay for a wheelchair rental, you know? And I started changing the prices. And then
I'm curious. What is a wheelchair?
So we rent wheelchairs for 4 hours or less. They're $20, or the day rate's $35, you know? That's not bad. So then that was kind of the going rate, you know? Any higher, it kind of deterred people. Any lower, it just didn't make sense. So I tried to go as high as I could without losing sales.
I'm perplexed. I would think that people who need wheelchairs will come with wheelchairs already.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say, these aren't people that are like wheelchair bound or anything like that. Or they're like people who have issues walking.
Copy.
So they come there and they don't realize how far the falls is. That's what they realize. Yeah. And we are very like, we get a lot of families. Lots of Indian families come. I'm having a lot of Hispanic families come, and they bring everybody, you know?
They bring older.
So they bring grandma, grandpa, and they'll, you know, they got to keep up. So they'll put them in the wheelchair and push it. Wow. And then from there, we started renting mobility scooters. So those are like the 4-wheel, you see people riding around on the falls on them. So we actually those are kind of our main business now. We run a ton of those. We do a lot of business with the casino. They'll rent them from us. I'm selling used ones now. We get a lot of senior groups now. I'm becoming known with the senior groups. So they're coming in and they're already pre-booking with us. Senior tour groups that come in too, they'll pull their bus right up, unload their bus, and they'll rent them, you know, for their tour. So
you got yourself a sweet spot.
Yeah, it's kind of a niche. It's a niche world, but it's going to grow. You know, especially mobility scooters. You know, the baby boomer market is very large, and they're entering that world. They're going to have mobility issues. You know, and it's just the nature of it. It's just a big thing. So it's a world I never thought I'd be in, to be honest. Medical supply. I never thought I'd be renting mobility scooters, to be honest with you. But.
So interesting story from your nascent beginning up until this point now. But speaking of stories, you're creating a documentary now, and I know you obviously are intrigued by the history of Niagara Falls because you're a tour guide. So elucidate on this documentary you're working on.
Yeah, so me and a team of guys, we actually was part of the Downtown Niagara Falls Business Association. So I became the president of it. We redid our bylaws last year. We kind of really refocused this entity that was about to go out of basically be done, about to go bankrupt, or just basically dissolve, actually, not bankrupt, dissolve. And from there, we were pitching an idea of what we're going to do with this entity. What is this Downtown Business Association? From there, we decided we were going to make a documentary about Niagara Falls, because every time we had a meeting, we'd be complaining about stuff. You know, we'd be complaining about infrastructure or lights or this, and then we'd have meetings with the people that can maybe fix that, and they never fix it. So we were like, you know what we should do? Yeah. Well, a lot of it comes down to straight funding. There's so many like fires, right, to be put out, that it seems like the city only focuses on the fires that people that complain the most about, or people that maybe potentially are going to vote for them. Tourist district, There's nobody really living down there. A lot of the business owners don't even live in the city. They can't even vote anyway. So we don't seem to get much attention paid to us. And then it's also a funding issue. So we decided to make the premise of the documentary we're shooting is like, what happened to Niagara Falls? You know, this world famous name. You know, when I travel, I tell people from Niagara Falls, they're like, oh, it must be beautiful. I'm like, well, the park's beautiful, the gorge is beautiful, but the city's a little rough, you know, like. For sure. So everyone has this idea that this place is fantastic and great, and you know, it's got a famous name, and honestly, it's the first tourism destination in America. You know, it's the first major tourism destination. Really? Yeah, pumped up by the railroad companies and everything like that. So when railroads first started being put in place and they were trying to sell tickets, they became almost like destination marketing agencies. So they would market destinations to go on these trains to sell you a train ticket. So they would pump to the East Coast, come to Niagara Falls. So tons of people from the East Coast would just come to Niagara Falls on train. And it was the major first tourism destination. Before, I mean, tourism wasn't even an industry, you know, prior to like the 1860s. Nobody was traveling for leisure and vacation. True. You know, you went somewhere, you stayed there for a long time. Horse and buggy. Yeah. Even going from here to Lockport on a horse and buggy, you're staying in Lockport for a couple of days. You're not traveling back that day. You know, it's a long ride. So we have this history, and I don't understand how such a historic place with all this history. We had Nikola Tesla was here designing a state-of-the-art power plant. You had Nabisco, which was innovative at the time, and they used to sell boxes with shredded wheat. You know, shredded wheat Nabisco had pictures of Niagara Falls. They were promoting Niagara Falls like crazy. You had all these kind of innovative things that happened here, and it's like, how did this place that at one time was so innovative, so pumped up, look like this? Yeah. You know, something's not adding up here. Right. And then just through the course of living here and working here and mentally documenting things, and sometimes just really taking pictures of things and seeing things, it just started to add up, you know, of like, all right, you got these entities, you have all these state entities around that seem to be doing very well. State parks invest all this money. They redid the parks the last 10 years. This put in a visitor center. I think it was like $35 million visitor center. They redid the bike path here. You got the power plant, generated like $4 billion in 2002 or 2022. They're doing well. They're making a tons of money. How in the world we butt up against this stuff, this waterfront, this gorge, and we don't? And this city is so run down. It doesn't make sense. Correct. So I started doing some research, and we've been talking. You know, a lot of people are working on this. We always privately talk about this, but it's always like this relationship with the state and the city doesn't seem to be at all equal. They're taking the waterfront. They control the waterfront. Normally, you go somewhere, travel. The state. Yeah. Normally, you go somewhere, right? The waterfront is prime real estate. That's what usually pays the top property tax dollars. People privately own it. They pay a lot of money to have that waterfront view and whatever reason they want it, you know, lakefront view, anything. It usually pays the most. Well, here in this situation, the state owns all the waterfront. They don't pay any property tax for it. It's kind of crazy, like the Upper River. So if you get off the Interstate 190 and you did the loop to go on the Niagara Scenic Parkway, underneath the Grand Island Bridge where all the big trucks crash all the time, you know, they hit the bottom of the bridge. Yeah. So if you continue driving on that, you think, you're going to drive by those two towers, right? That's the water intakes. That's where they divert water for the hydroelectric power plant. So they have these two tunnels that'll run from the Upper River through the city of Niagara Falls underground, right by the high school, and will connect up to basically the reservoir over there and the power plant. And that waterfront, you drive on it, when it's sun setting, you're like, man, it's beautiful, you know? It's like, why aren't they building condominiums on this? You know, like high-end things. I always say that too. People will be paying top dollar to live with this beautiful view on the river, and then they'd be paying property tax to the city of Niagara Falls for this thing. But instead, it's owned by New York State Power Authority, who pays zero. Wow, I didn't know that. They pay $0 for it. Then the land, the tunnels that run underneath the city of Niagara Falls, right, that connect up here, the land, the city can't do anything with it. Like private developers can't do anything with it because if they dig into the ground to build anything, it'll compromise the tunnels. Yeah. So basically, you have this section. The only thing they have on it is like the fields, the track fields, you know, the football fields, baseball fields for the school, the golf course. There's nothing really on it. So it's like, all right, you have this land you can't even use either. They don't pay for that, you know, loss of land to the city, and they generate tons of money off of hydroelectric power. You know, it's a money grab. And then you got state parks, who owns the historic park, Then they own the whole entire gorge here, from the park to Whirlpool State Park to Devil's Hole State Park, all owned by state parks. Once again, they call it waterfront property because the river's down there. Mm-hmm. What do they pay for that? They don't pay anything.
Okay, so what will then be the solution to ameliorate that? Is it just bringing awareness to it, and that's why you're creating a documentary?
Yeah, we're bringing awareness to it. And it's not just, they should pay property tax. It's like, it's to bring awareness in a sense to show like, we're getting a really bad deal. We're getting a bad deal here from the state. It's not a good relationship. A lot of people think the state does great stuff for us all the time. Do they give grants? Absolutely. But are they working? They have an economic development company in downtown Niagara Falls. They're trying to get development going, but is it working? They bought 36 properties from Joe Anderson, Smoking Joe, and I think maybe 8 years ago. Yeah. Almost all of them are still vacant. Like what is going on here? Like, so they do things that don't really pan out. Instead of just giving the city some sort of recurring revenue to their general funds.
The city purchased those properties, correct?
No, the state.
The state did?
The city purchased the ones here up here on Main Street. But the ones in downtown Niagara Falls were purchased by the state economic development company. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Like Hotel Niagara, that big vacant hotel, they purchased that building, then they sold it for $1 to a developer, and it's been vacant for still 6 years. The guy can't get funding for it. He's some developer who developed, it was called Hotel Syracuse. Yeah, I've been to that hotel. Super cool property. They were hoping he'd do the same thing here.
So he's trying to get funding for it, and he can't?
Can't get financing for it, apparently. Yeah.
No financing.
Yeah, he can't get financing for anybody to redo this property, apparently. So, like, okay. And then there's another property. There's a lot of property. There's a property on 3rd Street, 2 properties that they have a developer. And what these developers do, obviously, they come in, but they don't, like, put on the project. They just look for the tenant now to put the project in. They just want to be the landlord. So those properties sit vacant. So there's a lot of just, like, they're trying to do that. But, all right, that's not working. And then you got, the city's just floundering. That's the big thing is like, who wants to even put a business here when it looks so run down?
Correct. Now, can you compartmentalize it from the standpoint that the city still has to focus on the city stuff, right? That's a different battle.
Absolutely. The city's got to focus on its own stuff, but I think the city is super underfunded.
Well, when you say super underfunded, because I know they receive like $57 million from the state, federal funds, I mean.
Yeah, they receive funds like that. So let's make it real simple. So like they had, the last couple of years, their budget's been almost close to $100 million. Sometimes a little bit over, sometimes a little under. So $100 million. 80% of that budget goes to payroll, health insurance, pensions of police officers, firefighters, DPW workers, city hall workers, 80% of their budget is eaten up by employee costs, essentially. Really? Yeah. 20% is discretional income that they can use to fix. So $20 million is what they can use now to try to put out thousands of fires of problems, Yeah. It's not enough money.
So where do you get the information from?
That's actually just from the city budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go through and look at it, it kind of just like you look at it and you think, all right, like I have a lot of complaints about the city. Why don't they fix this? Why don't they do this? And it's always a funding issue. They'll fix, and then it becomes very political of like, well, this is my pet project, so I'll fight for it. Because really, essentially, they're fighting over crumbs. Everyone's fighting over crumbs for their little pet project when we should be able to fund all of it.
Yeah. See, I'm in a very peculiar position right now because, in regards to my political intent, a lot of the information I'm receiving is one-sided.
Yeah.
And even as a journalist, as a podcaster, I like to see perspectives from all angles. Yeah. And I can make an informed decision from there. So anytime you lean one way, you're going to hear the opposition of somebody.
Yeah.
And so I try, even with Steinel, he fortunately, for the first time, actually scheduled a meeting with me. So I'm meeting with him. But it's unfortunate that it's taken this long.
Yeah.
Because I want to know his side. I've heard all this shit, and I'm like, okay, well, I just want to hear from him. Let me know I want to know what his plans are, what he plans on doing to cultivate the city, And then there I can make an informed decision.
Yeah.
But everybody's saying, giving me talking points to talk about and agendas. I'm like, wait, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
it.
That's what happens when you run. Everyone has a.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about your experience as and we'll jump back to the documentary. But tell me a little bit about your experience because you ran for
District 6 county legislator. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I ran, I was approached around. I wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna, this has been my call-in or something like that. It was not my. Everyone always says that to me. You should run. I'm like, I don't know if I should. I don't know.
I'm this same thing. Yeah.
So I ended up running for county legislator of District 6. It was very interesting. The whole petition thing is probably the hardest part of it. I think the whole getting the signatures.
Yeah. Why?
It's just you got to go door to door, and nobody answers their door. Today's world, no one's answering your door. I found if I looked the most presentable, nobody would answer the door. I think they thought I was a cop or something like that, or I was like giving bad news or something. So if I went and looked like a delivery guy, they all answered the door. So I always would wear a blue hat, and I looked like an Amazon delivery guy a lot of times, and they'd answer the door.
That's actually strategic.
And I got a lot of signatures. I would say that the thing too, the signature process is it's good to do because you will hear what the general public really is complaining about. And I'm a very entrepreneurial person, so I think a lot in terms of like accounting or economics and stuff like that, or development. That stuff's not even on the general public's mind.
What
like sidewalks, the dead trees that are in between the sidewalk and the roads, garbage collection, mostly quality of life issues, things that they're just annoyed about. And then really it wasn't that much, it really wasn't like complicated stuff, I'm thinking. And I'm running for county legislator, and I'm thinking, well, I have no power to do any of this anyway, And I'm thinking like, man, and someone would joke, they'd be like, oh, I'll be dead before you get this tree cut down, or a house that got caught on fire that's now vacant for 10 years. And they're like, every time somebody comes for a signature here, we always talk about this house and they never demolish it, It's like things like that. So, and then you start thinking about those things, and I start thinking, what does it all boil? Like I said, about funding. Where is the funding to fix all these things? So that was a good process. And the hardest part, when you're doing it, I'm telling you, get like a little thing to tap. I'm not going to lie. My knuckles were sore from rapping on a door in the cold. Because you would hit, I'm like a numbers guy. I would be like, what is my percentage? Is it 10%? So I got to hit 100 houses to get 10 signatures. You just play the numbers game. We got to hit 350 houses, maybe we get 35 signatures. And that was kind of like the game. But that's what people would complain about almost all the time. Almost every time. It would be about their neighbors too, sometimes about the quality of their condition of their house. Like, this guy's running a junkyard over here, or this is going on. And you're like, yeah, where is code enforcement? Where is this? What's going on here? So it wasn't really like complicated stuff. It was like little things, but all those add up to this like morale issue everybody has in Niagara Falls. And then after the petition part ended, I got on the ballot. I was actually registered as a conservative. I was endorsed by the Democrats. But when I ran, I was not in any party. I'm called and was a no-op, no official party. I'm not an independent, but that's actually a party. I'm no party. So I had to register. And at the time they said, the Democrats, because my opponent was conservative, Republican, try to steal the conservative line, because there's only like in the district 80 registered, maybe 90 registered conservatives. So it would force a primary. And then maybe I could win that line, because the ballot is all about sometimes just strategically being on the ballot. Because some people, if they're Democrat, will only vote Democrats. Republicans some will only vote Republican. They'll just vote the party down, or you might see your name so many times. I'm like, oh, this guy's got to be good. He's on this many lines, So it's kind of like a strategic branding in a line, which made sense.
It increases your chances.
Yeah. So I went through that whole process, got endorsed by the Democrats.
Why did you get endorsed by the Democrats?
They're the ones that approached me to run.
Really? Okay.
They were really the idea for me to run as a conservative, to try to steal the line. So I would get the Democrat line, the working families line,
trying to do that now,
and maybe the conservative line. And then my opponent would only have the Republican line. So maybe I would win. I'd have all three to lines. But what ended up happening was 2 and 2. Because what ended up happening after I got the petitions and all this stuff, then the real politics started happening. You know, the go to the events, the fundraisers, who you taking pictures with, who are you talking to. Oh, well, you better kind of fall in line. You can't go opposing this. You can't,
Yeah, I heard that.
you know,
too.
and that immediately,
Turned you off.
immediately, I don't want to say I have a problem with authority figures, but I don't like being told what to do. I don't want to, especially when I'm not doing anything really wrong. I'm just being myself. You know, somebody in an opposing party, or I'm being endorsed by the Democrats, but somebody that's running against the mayor doesn't like him, but that guy wants to talk to me or even take a picture with me. I don't care. I didn't mind the conversation. Sure. You know, if you're going to be in an office, you should be able to talk to anybody. Exactly. That's why I really don't like political parties. It makes you not objective. You now are on a team, whether you like the team or not, you're in the team. So it really turned me off. And honestly, being called a politician was such a dirty term to me. I really didn't like it. Like, well, you're a politician, and I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, how terrible. I like when people call me an entrepreneur or, you know, a husband or a father. I don't like when somebody called me a politician. I'm like, I'm not a politician. It means I'm a liar. You know, like, no, I'm not. I really didn't like it.
Yeah, there's a negative stigma when being called a politician.
Yeah, I really didn't like it. And so that really, honestly, from that point on, and then also the summer, I get super busy with my business. I'm very engaged in it. And then when I'm not, I'm real active in my family's life. You know,
How many kids you got?
I have 2 kids. I have twins.
Oh,
So
nice.
I coach their baseball team.
Nice.
I play bocce at Hyde Park on Wednesday nights with my family. Like, we have a family league.
Nice.
So, like, do you want to go knocking door to door, listen to everyone complaining about all these things that you can't even fix anyway, and I'll try, and lie to them basically and say you're going to do your best, but it's impossible to even, I don't want to say that at the door. There's nothing I can do about that. Like, how's that going to get you a vote? So I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go knocking door to door with these people. I'd rather go spend it with my kids or go for bike rides or go out with my wife. Like, and I just was like, I at one point I even called up the party and was like, I don't even want to do this. I'm done. Like, well, you're on the ballot. I'm like, take me off. So like, there's nothing we can do about that. I'm like, well, I guess I'm on the ballot, you know? And when the election came, you know, I thought, man, am I going to get like 2 votes? Like, what's going to happen? I was so shocked, actually. I got like, my wife's like, oh, you got crushed. And it was, you know, crushing. The guy won. My opponent had like 950 votes. I think I had 450 votes. And I'll tell you, I did nothing, though. I didn't do anything. Really? That's the craziest thing. I got 450 votes and I did 0, other than the petition part. That was the only time I did any work for it, was the petition. And after that, I did nothing.
You didn't do any like fundraiser or anything?
I didn't do a fundraiser either because I felt bad taking people's money.
That's what I feel.
Yeah, people were like wanting to give me money.
Like,
so many people were like, I'll give you money. I'll give you money. I was like, no, I'm okay. I was like, my heart's not even in this. I can't take your money. Yeah. I feel like I'd be cheating you if I took your money. And then I don't do anything and I took your money and
I just want to add value. I don't feel like taking people's money is no.
That's another thing, part of the game of asking for people's money is just, I can't do that.
Yeah, I think it goes against, it's contradictory
to me. It's like, you got to sell, I'd rather sell you something. A service exactly. Or not. Here, how about this? How about just buy this shirt I made for $100? Exactly. At least you got something in return. Exactly. Instead of just giving me money for
correct.
No I don't know. It's just strange to me. Yeah. Even the dinners I always found was kind of weird. And the fun, we're like, oh, $200 for some barbecue raffle thing. I'm like, this is highway robbery. Like, what are they doing? Be a gold member, be a platinum sponsor. Like, this is crazy.
So with your being in politics, and how did that, if so, have a deleterious effect or cultivated relationships in the city for you? Like,
yeah,
I know even with the mayor, I hear stories, right?
Yeah,
that he's very truculent or austere. Like, he doesn't want to be bothered sometimes, which I can understand 100%. But have you met the mayor?
Yeah, I met the mayor. Yeah, we interviewed him for the documentary. I've met him numerous times.
Okay.
I'd say at times we're not on the same page about things. I think the documentary of what we talked about the state not paying its fair share, he was very on board with that. Obviously, what mayor doesn't want more funding coming to their city, right?
Yeah.
You know, I've heard very mixed things about the mayor. Some people really like him. Some people can't stand him.
Which I think is understandable for the position he's
in,
right?
I think it's I think the mayor, being the mayor of Niagara Falls has got to be the hardest, very hard job.
Yeah.
Because you're going to take a beating, and even being on city council, I'll tell you, man, I hear the meetings, I see the rants, and I think, I don't know how some of these sit up there and take this lashing. Sometimes it's really is just this person's mad about nonsense, or like there's like it's you're yelling at this and it's not going to do anything anyway. So what are you doing? Calm down, you know. And sometimes it is if you can go up there at a passionate speech and get your point across, but sometimes it's just it becomes like a venting thing, and it's not necessarily good. So it becomes a little crazy, and I think this city too is very hypersensitive to little things. Like I've never seen a place, you know, we have so many problems here, and everyone's very like passionate about. I would say the dog pound thing, the whole dog. Everyone's very fired up about that. I remember like a couple of years ago, everyone was fired up about the chickens. You know, people want to have chicken coops. People want to be able to have chicken coops, right? Okay. And the city was like adamantly against it, and the residents wanted it. But I'm like, what else? Who cares? Let them have chickens. I've been to Key West. There are chickens everywhere in Key West. You know, like who cares? Do whatever you want. Like this place that already is kind of like the Wild West.
That would have been weird.
There's worse things that are going on here, I guess. Let's throw chickens into the mix. And I mean, it was like people were very impassioned about the chickens. And I thought, man, these people are so fired up over this, fired up about dogs and fired up about all these things. And I'm just like, are you guys not looking at all the vacant buildings and stuff? Like all like the poverty, like, can you be just as fired up about that stuff? But they don't seem to be that fired up. It's like little things. And if they are appeased by it, they're like, oh, things are good. I got what I wanted.
That's the mindset in Niagara Falls, and I feel like, fortunately, I feel like it's going to be like that for a long time. But I think there's powers to be that wanted to keep it that way also. Now, if you were the mayor, what are some of the first things you would do to help cultivate the city?
I guess I would probably. I guess if I was the mayor, I don't know. I'd probably have to go one. I would have to get the house or the company under control. You know, I'd have to find out what is going on with DPW. You know, is it total lack of funding? Is it a bit both? Is it underfunded but also not good employees? You know, what's going on? Why is the snow plowing so bad? What's going on with the road, the asphalting of the roads? You know, how much money is being wasted? I want to find out first how much money is being wasted.
Correct.
And what's going on here? And I want to know in every department who everyone is. You know, what do you do? What's your job? You know, economic development. What are you guys working on? Engineering. What are you guys doing? What's going on in here? What projects are you even overseeing? You know, I want to know everything about the whole operation, and then from there I would come up with some sort of strategy of how to best use the funds to then have a vision of, fixing the city. You know, obviously I'm involved in the tourism industry. To me, honestly, I think the tourism industry could fix the whole rest of the city. It's seasonal. It's only 5 months long. And this isn't like rocket science. Canada's doing it. Canada's turned theirs into a year-round destination. It's built all those towers of glass over there. We don't need to, reinvent the wheel. We can compete against them. We could do the same thing. We can at times work with them, and at times have friendly competition, try to keep our American tourists who are going over to Canada on our side. I would probably focus a lot of policy changes down there. I would eliminate the height restriction. You should be able to build as big a building you want down there. I'd eliminate that in a second. I would allow open containers on 3rd Street, like a Bourbon Street. I would try to use bed tax dollars that is generated in to start promoting the local businesses in Niagara Falls, however that is, most effectively done. To really focus on Niagara Falls. We have a DMO now that promotes the county, but I would create almost a small mini DMO that would promote strictly the small businesses of Niagara Falls. And then how do we figure that trickle into the rest of the city? Like back in the day, when you had all the chemical companies on Buffalo Avenue, their chemical companies, their customers were abroad everywhere, right? Guys and people that worked in those chemical factories made a good money. They went out into the small business community of Niagara Falls and spent their money. We don't have a major industry here right now that is producing jobs with those people living here, then go out to the small business community and spend their money, going to dinner, restaurant, bars, grocery stores. Correct. The tourism industry, if it were to become 12 months, could produce better paying jobs where these people then could go out and support the small business community. Right now, there's nobody here with any disposable income to support the small business community.
Yeah, I think they say in 2025, I think still Niagara Falls, the The average income annually, I think it's 30,000.
Yeah, 30,000. Yeah, that's not much to support a small business community. Correct. Small business always generate a little bit higher priced, you know, it's because they're small, you know, but we don't have that. And I would focus on tourism because one thing about tourism here, it's been happening since, you know, the 1860s and that, is that the waterfall will never leave. It's like built into the fabric here. You know, so and also it's kind of telling if you bring other people in here and they go to the tourism district and they see like it looks run down, it's ghost town in the winter, you know, like you got to start wondering like what's going on here? How are you guys striking out with this, which is built in here? So what else is going on here? You know, you're starting to wonder like, should I start a business here? You can't even get this going.
What about like where there are major investments that want to come into the city?
Oh man, I'd have a very laissez-faire attitude to business. To be honest with you, I would probably have Buffalo had this attitude at one time when I started a pedicab thing in Buffalo, and I really loved their. I was mad about Niagara Falls, so I rode the pedicab from here to Buffalo, and I was super pissed. And I was like, "Fuck this place!" I'm riding. I rode along the Niagara River. I rode to Buffalo on it.
What?
I was a bit crazy when I was younger, and still am crazy at times. But I rode there, and then I went to the county office there and opened up a DBA for Buffalo Pedicab Company. And I figured I was literally in the office like, all right, so where do I go get a permit, you know, for this? And they're like, what? They were like shocked. They're like, what do you mean a permit? I'm like, don't I need a permit? They're like, you don't need a permit. What are you doing? I told them, they're like, this is how it works. If you become a problem, we'll come find you. I'm like, okay, sounds great. Niagara Falls, when I did it, people were trying to stop me. The state park wouldn't let me in the park. I had to battle with them. The city was like, you can't just be riding around. You would have thought one guy riding on a bike, like I was taking down the world or something like that. Like, wow. I would have a very like, I don't know, do whatever you want until you become a problem. And then we're going to come and say, what are you doing here? Correct. Now you're going to have to pay a permit. Now we're going to go through your thing. We don't hear about you. Nothing's happening. You know, obviously you're going to open it. We're not going to allow you to be selling liquor without a license, but are we going to really be nitpicking about your sign? Are we going to really be nitpicking and you put some... That's the other that annoys me is the table thing. I don't have it, but I feel bad for the guys that want to put tables out in front of their little pizzeria. The goofy just form and they have to pay $15. Like, just let them put tables. Who cares if they have tables? Like, why even pestering them about that? Like, it's like little things like that add up to where people start getting like annoyed because they're just like, what do I have to do now? What do I have to get now?
Yeah, even with Airbnb. So I do, you know, this is one of the conversations I want to have with the mayor is there are people who are willing and companies willing to invest in Niagara Falls, but they feel like there's this blockade in front of them from doing so. Prime example, the NFR deal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I only know one side of it.
Yeah.
Right. I want to hear from him what is his take on it.
Yeah.
Why are they trying to eminent domain it?
Yeah, I think that whole thing is a little, you know, kind of bizarre situation too. I think I think you could have both things, a data center. The arena idea actually isn't even the mayor's idea. That was an idea that came before the mayor. Really? It really was a Pat Whalen. Pat Whalen was a guy that ran the Global Tourism Institute. He's the one that put the tech incubator center on Niagara Street. It was called TREC. It eventually disbanded. It was run by NU. NU started. He was hired by NU. So NU created the Global Tourism Institute. It was supposed to be in downtown Niagara Falls to help stimulate the tourism hospitality economy down here. And he was involved, and he got them to renovate a building on Niagara Street. They put in a tech innovators, startup or incubator center. He basically helped getting the same one that's in Buffalo. That's in the medical campus.
43 North?
He was involved in that whole, what's the incubator center that's in there? 43 North's in there too. But there's like a center, I think it's called like, I forget exactly what it's called. It's in there though. It's right next to Albrecht's. But he got it going there. He got an incubator center going there. He was part of the Buffalo Medical Campus. He was a kind of a innovative guy there. So that's how he got the job with NU, with the Global Tourism Institute. And he brought some of those ideas. And he actually went, and he's a big hockey guy. He went and met with people in Toronto that could develop an arena that would fit right in kind of the neighborhood where you could have like potentially a grocery store. Like Air Canada Center has a grocery store below it's, the arena. So it fits into the community. So it's not just like this random arena and it's only open 80 days out of the year. It had a grocery store underneath it. And he knew that the NHL and these minor league hockey teams wanted to expand. They were actually going to lose the lease was going to come up in Mississauga, and they wanted to move a team. So that was where this idea for an arena came from. He actually had a guy come here, and he found a couple spots. One spot they thought would be, if you know where Jefferson Apartments is on 3rd Street, there's a city lot. The city lot, they could build an arena in that city lot. It would be butting up against the convention center, which the state already owns. So maybe the state would help invest in it because it's already kind of part of their world. It'd also be closer to the hotels and restaurants. But that idea kind of went away. That was during an administration change. That was when Dicer was in office. And then Rustino came in. And actually, I helped fund, it wasn't a lot, but I was part of they put out this research paper, I guess you could call it, almost this whole study on what could go in downtown Niagara Falls. And one of the things they proposed in that study was an arena or some sort of long-term event center, because the city lost the convention center when it turned into the casino. It used to be a convention center. They used to get a ton of conventions, honestly, all year round. It was huge. They used to hold, Miss America competitions in it every year.
Really?
Yeah. They once had one time in downtown Niagara Falls, they had like a NASCAR race through downtown Niagara Falls.
That's a lot of here.
Yeah, in the 80s. And it started right in front of where the casino was, underneath that overhang thing. They were all lined up, and they were racing around. They shut the streets down. They were flying around downtown Niagara Falls. Yeah. Yeah. So these things were happening, like they were going in this direction at one point. And that was the idea from that. Then the mayor heard that idea and jumped on it. And why he picked that spot, I don't know. None of us, in the study, it doesn't say exactly where the spot should be. It should be recommended that there should be a committee to decide what's the most spot that would make the most sense financially and also for the whole economy down there. Then that happened, and I think really it has to do, I think it's just a little bit of ego in it. I think NFR has been here for so long, they've done nothing. There are people here that adamantly believe NFR never had intention to do anything. There's people in that camp hate NFR. And I think that's obviously the camp that Rustino comes from. And then there are people, that know people from NFR and, friendly with them and do believe in it. And they know that also sometimes they're full of shit. Sometimes the things don't happen. But why that is going on, this battle for that parcel too, also I'm like, all right, they're losing the property, going to build an arena. I don't necessarily think it's the best spot for the arena. But also, you want to build a data center. Well, you also own all this other land there. Or just put the data center somewhere else on this gigantic. You own this whole massive area.
Yeah, they're saying that they want to build the data center, but they also want to build like condominiums around it too.
No,
so,
I don't. Things keep changing and adding. I don't know. I honestly don't. I know some people say the data center isn't real, but I did hear from kind of inside source people that the people that are funding the money for all this lawsuits and everything like that are the people that want to build a data center. So I would have to think that the data center people that are paying, it's got to be real. Why are they paying these attorneys? But I don't know. Honestly, it's I would allow that. I would say absolutely build a data center. I mean, you're going to need a lot more data centers now, especially with AI. They're going to need to serve. You're going to have these servers somewhere.
The perplexing thing is too that I believe it's advantageous for the future of Niagara Falls as well.
Yeah.
And I'm just a business guy too.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, we'll bring in the money that brings in the taxes, things of that nature. People will benefit from it. They have paying jobs. And that changes the way of life here. The culture here starts to change. And more businesses will come after that and follow suit. So I don't understand why we're stopping. And that's why I want to have a conversation with Rustino.
Yeah.
I just want to get his perspective. And then on top of that, I think arena is a good idea. I do. I think it's a good idea. I'm not fixated on where it should be.
Yeah. I don't think the spot is necessarily the best spot. I think a lot of people will come in on John B. Daly off the highway there, off the parkway. They'll go there. They're also going to build a parking ramp. You already have a parking ramp. You already have a city parking ramp. And you have property across from it that a flat service lot the city owns. Then you have the state owns a giant vacant land spot there. Like you could build it on the state's property. They're not paying taxes now, So, and it also is closer to 3rd Street, your Coin Entertainment District, But yeah, I don't know why they picked that spot. That's why I think that's where the they wanted to have a battle with NFR, and this is what they're having it over.
Got it.
I think that's why. But I mean, I don't understand why NFR doesn't build the data center somewhere else down there. I don't get it. You know, I don't. That's why it's just bizarre. It seems like a clash that they want to have. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're not trying to find.
They're
not trying to find win-win. That's the thing. It's like it's one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Are you for the arena or for the data center? I'm like, can I like both? I just don't understand. Like, why is it gotta always be like one or the other? You know, why can't we have both of them? You know,
Correct.
I don't know. Even like the Bitcoin mining thing too. Like I never understood that one too. They're like, it's so loud. I actually drive every day down 24th Street to Buffalo Avenue, cut to Buffalo Avenue. I go to downtown Niagara Falls, and it's right on the corner, right across the street. I never hear it.
What is it?
So they have like a big bunch of servers mining Bitcoin right on Buffalo Avenue in an old factory.
Really?
Yeah, tons. And then when they first came here, man, you thought they were bringing in like circus loud horn, like playing obnoxious music all the time. People were like, the noise, I can't sleep. I'm like, what are you talking about? I swear to God, I drive there, I can maybe hear a slight hum coming from it.
Interesting.
I don't hear anything. That was the argument for it, was to stop it because of the noise. But I'm thinking, like, who cares what these guys are doing? I mean, it's zoned for this. I don't understand what. Mm-hmm. And also at the time, I think there was an election going on, so people are like standing up for it. It's very weird. It was just like, who cares? They're making a bigger problem out of this, and there really is no noise. It was very weird.
From politics, let's go back to this documentary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When do you plan on launching it? And what's the message with the documentary? Let's talk about that. What is the message with your documentary?
Yeah.
I think we touched on it a little bit prior.
So the message is kind of, I would say it's almost an evolving message as we interview people. Things keep coming out, you know. We have a very broad, what happened here, you know, and we get people's different take on it. And then from there, we kind of narrowed down to what we are focusing on. And the whole premise of it was, the state is not paying its fair share, giving, any type of, equity share to the city of Niagara Falls or controlling its waterfront. When we proposed ideas, ideas we're coming up with too are like, well, why can't the power plant add like an extra 5 cents to every kilowatt or something super low that the customer would never notice and give that money to the city? Mm-hmm. It's basically kind of just showing that the inequality of revenue that's going on here, because everyone thinks this area is poor. The city is poor, but this area is surrounded by wealth. How could we be poor when we have a waterfall and this river and this power plant? And it's really to show, like, kind of to start directing their attention at what's going on here. Correct. And that's instead of infighting all the time over every little thing, because that's why I say we're always arguing about crumbs. Start going after who has the real bread here, and start trying to get that funding. Yeah. And maybe we need to start holding our state officials and larger officials, federal, Congress people, a little more accountable to start finding out what is going on here. Why aren't you fighting for this? And and a lot of people I think a lot of politicians just view Niagara Falls as this, it's just Niagara Falls. It's the way it is here. And I think I'm trying to show them that message. There's this whole other entity down here that they don't even think about. Like, no one ever really complains. I never hear any citizen here complain about New York State parks or Delaware North that basically runs the concessions of the park, or no one ever brings up the power authority. Mm-hmm. They don't even think of it as a potential source of some sort of revenue. It's like, why aren't they pitching in money, recurring revenues to the city to fix these places? Like, how could we have this power plant and drive on these roads like this? Mm-hmm. This road should be made of gold. It's unbelievable how much money is brought here. So it's kind of really to show people how much wealth is here. It's just they don't know about it. And it's being taken out of here to Albany or to other areas, and they need to start demanding it or start paying attention to what is going on, where the money is going. Everyone's focused on where the money's going to the city, but it's so little that they're fighting over this and that. Right. And there should be so much more money. Mm-hmm. Everyone's project that they want done should be able to get funded. There should be enough of it, because we're not asking for some crazy things. People in the North End want a park. All right, they should get a park. They've been demanding it for years. Some other people want, better. I want better lighting in the tourist district. It's not asking. I mean, we have a power plant here. How do we have bad lighting in the tourist district? It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, like, these aren't like crazy. I'm not asking for $1 billion, development thing. But if you look at what happened with Buffalo's waterfront, like Brian Higgins when he was in office, to get the funding to fix or to throw money at the Buffalo waterfront and start getting things rolling, he got it out of the power plant. He went after the power plant and got them to give them money. He was able to do it. What are our representatives? What are they doing now? Why aren't they doing that for Niagara Falls? You know, how is this place left behind essentially? You know, and what that has happened when them doing this? Look what it's created. It's created a city that is low morale. You know, everyone just kind of accepts this place being run down. They don't, you know, they're just like, this is how it is, you know? And it just creates this kind of really negative place sometimes where people don't believe this place can become better or even demand it to become better. Because in other communities, people demand stuff and they get it. When they're mad, man, the city government listens to them, you know? Like people just stand up there here. It's just like, well, that's just how it, I always hear, well, that's just how it is. I'm like, well, why do we accept that? I don't understand that. It's bizarre to me.
Yeah, I feel like ever since I came to Niagara Falls, which was in 2018, I've been stuck in a time loop.
Yeah.
I don't feel like anything has cultivated since I've been here.
Yeah.
And yes, there is this acquiescent nature of Niagara Falls. Like everybody, this is what it is. This is Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
Like, this is not what it has to be.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah, very interesting. When is the documentary coming out? Do you know?
Our game plan is to have it out probably by late spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where can people watch it?
It'll be broadcast on our website. We'll put it on there. It'll be tagged probably on YouTube. And I think we might even we're talking about the ideas of maybe having like a premiere somewhere.
That'd be cool.
So we can invite some people and people can come see it. Where that will be, I don't know yet. So it's really in the planning stages. But, you know, when we made this thing, when he first was brought out, people said, oh, what are you making a hit piece? You know, who are you trying to bring down? And I'm like, I was like, we're making a film about Niagara Falls. You know, they thought, you know, like, it's kind of like, we're just going to show it for what it is, you know? And some people were very apprehensive, you know, like, well, I don't want to be part of anything negative. I'm like, I'm just going to show it for what it is, you know? I'm not going to come in and we're not bashing the city. We're just showing it.
Correct.
If anything, by the end is going to get bashed is the state of New York because they're taking all the money, but it's not, it doesn't have to be that way, you know, like, it's what happens when you suck all the money out of here and look what it looks like, you know, this is what it goes on. So we just want to showcase that and we'll see what happens, where it goes, you know, hopefully it takes a life of its own and just catches fire and people are like, yeah, this is ridiculous, you know, 'cause we get a lot of bad rap in the local, you know, Western New York. Everyone just thinks Niagara Falls is just full of crazy people.
Correct, yeah.
You know, people, when I say I live in Niagara Falls, and I'm like in Buffalo or something, like, well, people are like, really? Like, they're like, wow. They're like scared of this place. I'm like, it's not that scary.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Galen, I really appreciate you. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's nice talking to you.
Yeah, we got to do this again.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right. Appreciate you.
Yep, thank you.